Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, so look, if you picture a digital nomad as, a 20-something backpacker struggling with spotty Wi-Fi on some sandy beach, it is time to just permanently delete that mental model.
Oh, entirely. That image is completely outdated.
Right. Today, we are setting out on a deep dive into what is basically a highly functional blueprint for the future of work.
And it's a really comprehensive one, too.
Exactly. We're looking at a resource from smartkeys.org, penned by Felix Römer, and it's titled Remote Work Co-Living, The Rise of Shared Living Spaces for Digital Nomads.
It's such an important read.
It really is, because we are talking about turnkey shared living spaces that are designed specifically for, maximum business efficiency, enterprise-grade infrastructure, strategic networking, the whole package.
What's fascinating here is that co-living has completely evolved past that old stereotype of, just seeking out cheap rent in a tropical location.
Yeah, it's not just a budget hack anymore.
Not at all. It has matured into a highly strategic solution to the two absolute biggest productivity killers of remote work, which are isolation and infrastructure friction.
Infrastructure friction is such a good way to put it.
Right. The source material clearly demonstrates that this movement is no longer about escaping the traditional corporate office. I mean, it is about upgrading the office and taking it global.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we look at the specific platforms or the global maps, we have to understand the psychological shift that's driving this trend.
The mindset change.
Exactly. I like to think of the old remote work model as this phase of hunting and gathering.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because you drop into a new city and you are literally scavenging for resources. You're burning hours, hunting for a quiet environment, gathering disparate, unsecured Wi-Fi signals.
Trying to find a coffee shop that isn't blasting music.
Exactly. You're playing this endless game of geographical roulette just to find a place to open your laptop. But co-living is like stepping into a fully built, ready-made neighborhood.
Where the foundational layers of your professional life are already just paved for you.
Yes, exactly. So you're getting a private bedroom, often en suite, but it's combined with these shared communal areas like kitchens and lounges.
And crucially, it's paired with actual co-working infrastructure.
Right. The high-speed internet, dedicated desks, and those bookable meeting rooms.
The hunting and gathering analogy perfectly captures the cognitive drain of the traditional model, though.
Yeah.
Think about the physiological and psychological toll of a professional arriving in a new city.
It's exhausting.
It is. The onboarding time alone, navigating a foreign grocery store, figuring out the local transit system, desperately trying to secure a reliable, encrypted network for a sensitive client call.
Stressful just thinking about it.
Right. And that friction isn't just annoying. It is an invisible tax on your executive function.
Wow, an invisible tax. Yeah.
It can easily consume an entire week of cognitive energy that should be directed toward your actual job. What these modern co-living models do is entirely eliminate that invisible tax.
Right, because we are assuming you already know you need fast internet. That's baseline.
Minimum requirement.
But the text highlights that these spaces provide dedicated ergonomic workstations and soundproof phone booths. You are getting enterprise-grade infrastructure.
Clean, uninterrupted calls.
But I do want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Because when I read about the shared kitchens and communal lounges included in these models, a massive alarm bell goes off in my head regarding forced socialization.
Ah, yeah, the dreaded group activities.
Exactly. Like, what if you are on a brutal, tight deadline for a client and you just absolutely do not want to participate in a mandatory group yoga session or some forced networking mixer?
That is a very valid hesitation, and it is the exact reason why this market has rapidly diversified.
So they realized not everyone wants to be at summer camp.
Oh, the industry realized very quickly that professionals do not have a uniform, monolithic work style. The article breaks down several different program models, and the key insight here is that you have to choose the operating system that matches your current professional bandwidth.
That makes sense.
If you are entirely new to this lifestyle, you likely need a soft landing, which naturally drives professionals toward highly structured models.
Right, and the first model Felix Römer details fits that soft landing need perfectly. It's called Noma Collective, which used to be Hacker Paradox.
This a very well-known one.
And this is an incredibly hands-on 3 to 4 week edition model. They provide a dedicated community manager who essentially acts as your specialized logistical fixer.
They handle everything.
Yeah, they do the local SIM cards, they curate the skill shares, and they manage the weekend excursions so your onboarding is just lightning fast.
And for that level of curation, the text notes, you're paying around $1,750 for a 3-week stint,
Up to about $3,590 for 4 weeks, yeah.
which is an excellent return on investment if you need that curated, built-in community.
Absolutely.
But as professionals get more comfortable with global mobility, they often start to chafe against that level of structure.
You don't need the hand-holding anymore.
Exactly. They want more control over their daily rhythm. That evolving need drives them toward the second model mentioned in the text, which is Wi-Fi artists.
Ah, yeah, Wi-Fi artists.
This model operates on month-long programs. But the brilliant mechanism here is modularity. You can actively decouple the programming from the accommodation.
Let me stop you right there, because that modularity solves a massive corporate headache.
Oh, completely.
Because a lot of modern remote workers have vastly different corporate stipends. Your company might pay for your housing accommodation, but you have to expense your co-working space and your professional networking entirely separately.
It's an accounting nightmare.
Exactly. So by decoupling those features, Wi-Fi Artist lets you buy just the program. So the co-working pass, the tech support, the local lead for roughly $800 to $920 a month.
Right.
Or if you are footing the whole bill yourself, you can bundle it with a private bedroom for somewhere between $1,770 and $2,300.
Exactly. It is designed to mold around complex corporate reimbursement structures. But this raises an important question. What happens when your primary goal isn't just a soft landing or flexible billing, but high-level strategic networking?
That's a whole different beast.
It requires an entirely different software model, which is where Wi-Fi Tribe enters the picture. This is a close-knit, highly intentional model capping at roughly 12 to 25 people for 4 to 8 week chapters.
But wait, I have to challenge the mechanics of this one.
Look for it.
The text explicitly states that for Wi-Fi Tribe, you have to go through a rigorous application and interview process.
You do, yeah.
And then you have to pay a $500 annual membership fee just to unlock the ability to book a room, where the fees then range from $1,200 to $2,800.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't an interview process and a cover charge just to get into a co-working group risk turning this into like an elitist tech bro echo chamber? How do they ensure it's actually a productive space and not just a gated vacation club?
It is a critical distinction to make. The interview process isn't about filtering for a specific demographic or a specific income bracket. It is about filtering for professional intent.
Okay, so vetting their work ethic.
Exactly. Wi-Fi Tribe acts as a curated professional accelerator. When you remove the interview process, you risk filling the space with people treating the trip as a prolonged vacation.
People who are just there to party.
Right. Which actively disrupts the deep work of the professionals around them. By vetting the participants, you are ensuring a baseline professional ethos. You are guaranteeing that the person sharing the kitchen with you is also grinding through a launch cycle or managing a complex project.
I see the logic there. It protects the integrity of the work environment. But what if you don't want a cohort at all?
A lot of people don't.
Right. What if you are in a season of your career where you just need to put your head down and execute predictable, solo, deep work scattered across the globe?
Then you graduate to the massive scale model, which is Outside. This is essentially a subscription to a global housing grid.
Wow, a global housing grid.
For a $149 annual fee or a $399 lifetime membership, you gain access to standardized, fully furnished spaces across 47 global locations.
That's a huge network.
It is. The rents range from $900 to $3,600 a month, but the core value proposition is predictability. Whether you are in California or Costa Rica, you know exactly what the desk looks like.
No surprises.
None.
Yeah.
You know the Wi-Fi is guaranteed at roughly 100 megabits per second, and you have 247 support.
It's the unbundling of the traditional corporate office.
Perfectly said.
So we've transitioned from the hand-holding of Noma Collective through the modularity of Wi-Fi artists into the curated networking of Wi-Fi Tribe, and finally, the predictable infrastructure of Outside.
The full spectrum.
Yeah. Now let's connect those platforms to the physical geography. Where are these hubs actually thriving? Here's where it gets really interesting, because before the text even lists the destinations, It offers a hyper-specific, genuinely brilliant piece of logistical advice.
Not the buffer day.
Yes, it completely changes how you plan these relocations. The travel buffer day.
That detail cannot be overstated. It is the perfect example of understanding the physiological realities of remote work.
It really is. The article explicitly points out that you must account for a buffer day before any major business calls. Because, let's look at the mechanics of a catastrophic failure here.
Okay, lay it out.
You land on a Sunday night, you cross 4 time zones, your body thinks it is 3 a.m., and you try to jump into a high-stakes client presentation on Monday morning.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Your executive function is shot, you fumble the presentation, and you potentially destroy 6 months of client trust. The time zone surprise is a professional killer.
It really is.
Factoring in that simple travel buffer day to let your circadian rhythm adjust, that's the exact kind of strategic planning that separates the amateurs from the pros.
It is about actively protecting your professional reputation. And when you are deciding where to implement that protected calendar, the destinations themselves offer incredibly different strategic advantages.
Right, because everywhere has a different vibe.
Exactly. The article highlights 3 massive geographical hubs right now. First is Bali, specifically the Brawa area. This is the model of tropical efficiency.
Tropical efficiency, I like that.
You have the on-site co-working, the gym, the pool, and incredibly fast infrastructure. What is remarkable is the concentration of resources driving down the price point. Rates there start around just $887 a month.
With listings carrying stellar 4.9 ratings, the text says,
Right.
the value proposition there is almost unbeatable for an individual contributor. But then the text takes us to Portugal, and it draws a fascinating contrast between 2 distinct professional vibes.
Portugal is so diverse for this.
It really is. Because if you are an established consultant or an executive who needs high-end, premium quiet, you look at the beachfront accommodations in the Algarve region, specifically Fuseta.
Which is pricier.
Right, the entry point is around $1,508 a month. But if you are a bootstrapped founder who wants to surf at dawn and write code until midnight, you head to Ericeira.
The Surf Hub.
Exactly. It is a leaner, surf-centric hub where you can secure that same core infrastructure starting at a remarkably low $420 a month.
The pricing directly reflects the intended corporate culture of the space. And then you have Mexico, with Puerto Escondido serving as a prime example of blending high social energy with dependable infrastructure.
That one starts around $1,261 a month, right?
Correct. It caters to the professional who wants vibrant, after-hours networking without sacrificing daytime productivity. But the text is very clear. Regardless of whether you choose the lean startup hub in Portugal or the executive setup in Mexico, there is a strict logistical checklist you must execute before booking.
Yeah, you cannot just trust the glossy marketing photos.
Definitely not.
The article dedicates an entire FAQ section to this verification process. You have to actively verify the advertised Wi-Fi speeds with independent tests or recent reviews.
You have to.
And you need to explicitly check the management's policy on business hours in the common spaces. Because if the communal lounge culturally transitions into a local happy hour at 4 p.m.
Right, and the music turns up.
And you have a critical 5 p.m. strategy call with a vendor, that space is completely useless to you.
And perhaps the most critical logistical hurdle, you have to actively align the destination's time zone with your team's core collaborative hours.
Ah, the time zones again.
Yes. A stunning, perfectly optimized co-living space is entirely counterproductive if it forces you to be on Zoom calls at 2 a.m. local time. The geography must serve the work, not the other way around.
So what does this all mean? We have covered the software platforms, the geographic hubs, and the logistical mechanics. But let's move to the ultimate so what's of this entire ecosystem.
The real ROI.
Yeah. How does this actually generate a tangible return on investment? Because it is incredibly easy to look at this and assume it is just a fun lifestyle perk for solo freelancers.
But it's not.
No, the article frames this heavily around enterprise strategy. This is becoming a massive structural tool for distributed companies.
It represents a profound shift in how companies execute team cohesion and manage real estate. The text points out that small companies and distributed teams are increasingly utilizing these clustered co-living units for their offsites and team deployment.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Think about the agonizing friction of organizing a traditional corporate retreat. You are negotiating with a hotel for a block of rooms. You are renting a separate sterile conference center.
Coordinating external catering?
Yes, and you are praying the AV equipment interfaces with your team's laptops. It is a logistical nightmare.
Let's paint the picture of the alternative. Imagine a 10-person SaaS startup that doesn't hold a traditional headquarters lease. Once a quarter, they simply drop into a specific wing of an outside location in Puerto Escondido.
The mechanism is entirely frictionless.
Right. The private, ensuite bedrooms are already there. The enterprise-grade internet is guaranteed. They have instant access to bookable boardroom spaces with digital whiteboards.
And the community manager acts as their built-in event planner.
They get all the benefits of a corporate campus without carrying the liability of a 5-year commercial lease.
Exactly. It radically reduces the organizational drag for the business. And for the individual professional, the return on investment is generated through the physical environment itself.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a fundamental truth of the modern digital economy. Your network is your net worth. What these heavily vetted co-living spaces are essentially doing is acting as an algorithmic recommendation engine, but for human networking in a physical space.
That is a brilliant way to frame it, an algorithmic recommendation engine for humans.
Yeah.
Because in a traditional work-from-home setup, isolated in a suburban apartment, you have to actively force every single professional interaction.
It's exhausting.
You have to schedule the Zoom coffee, you have to cold outreach on LinkedIn. It takes massive deliberate effort just to have a conversation. But by placing yourself in a hub of other driven professionals, you are entirely changing the physics of your environment.
You are manufacturing serendipity.
Manufacturing serendipity, I love that.
Simply by making coffee in the shared kitchen, you are actively crowdsourcing problem solving. You might offhandedly mention a bug in your code, and the person next to you is a senior engineer from Tokyo who solved that exact problem last week.
Wow, yeah.
You are constantly exposed to new software tools, new project management frameworks, and new global markets. This continuous, low-friction exchange of ideas keeps you, and by extension your business, entirely ahead of the innovation curve.
And the text points out that these connections last, right?
Oh, absolutely. It explicitly notes that these temporary proximity ties frequently evolve into long-term collaborative partnerships and massive global client referrals.
It is a structural reorganization of human capital. We are taking the absolute best, most dynamic elements of a university campus.
The proximity, the cross-pollination of ideas.
Yeah, the shared high-end resources. And we are applying them directly to the adult professional sphere. It is a stunningly compelling vision of what the future of work can look like when we stop treating remote work as a compromise and start treating it as an optimization.
And for the professional or the enterprise willing to adapt to that optimized model, the competitive advantage is absolute. You are operating with lower overhead, higher cognitive function, and a globally distributed network of vetted peers.
Which brings us to a final, truly fascinating thought to wrap up this deep dive. When you synthesize all of this, the curated cohorts of Wi-Fi Tribe, the standardized global grid of Outsite, the enterprise teams dropping into Bali and Portugal, what we are actually witnessing is the total unbundling of traditional commercial real estate.
Office space is transitioning into a software-as-a-service model.
Exactly. But before we sign off, I'll leave you with this to mull over. As these global co-living hubs begin to act more and more like sovereign, self-contained corporate campuses with their own vetted populations and microeconomies, how long until forward-thinking countries stop offering generic digital nomad visas and start offering specialized citizenships tied directly to these specific high-yield ecosystems?
That is a wild thought.
Right. The boundaries between where we live, how we work, and how nations attract top talent are blurring faster than we realize.
It's an entirely new world.
Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. If you want to consistently stay ahead of these massive structural shifts and future business trends, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming deep dives.
You won't want to miss them.
And I highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full, comprehensive article. We explored the strategic architecture today, but his piece holds all the granular details, the specific platform links, and that essential deep dive FAQ section. You can find the link to the original SmartKeys text right down in the show notes. Keep exploring, keep optimizing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.